You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and for me, this is like third time's the charm. For you, this is, fairly normal. I was cutting these things out back to back to back. The release has been staggered, but I was trying to get through it because I took off a week. I know I shouldn't have did it, but yeah, I took off a week, and then I, had to pile things up. So, to get back into the swing of things, I just went ahead and did those in succession. Skipping over one of my favorite things to do, the news, views, and update segment, just so I can try to keep it condensed down to WoW and its review, which has been the primary portion of this thing. The bones of this this podcast has been the focal point of it. And it remains the focal point of it because there's just so much stuff that goes on in WoW that, I can just sit here and talk about for days and days and days and days and days. And aside from that, when I speak of things that's going on in the wrestling world as of right now, it's not a whole bunch that's happening out there as it relates to women's wrestling, at least. But we're going to try to do just a tad bit of it, just for a second, because I haven't done it in a while. So, for the benefit of me and those who care about it, it's time for the news, views, and updates. And what do you know is going on out there in the world? It appears that Shayna Baszler, and before I even start with that, I think it has to be pointed out again. I don't know if the WWE is doing this just because they want to make sure that they never get hit with, you guys have a monopoly and you don't let them go and they're not independent contractors and this, that, and the other. But there's been a lot more of what I call it shared talent. I guess so. There's a couple of cases of shared talent that's been going on out there. The least of which here is a return to Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 13. Now, keep in mind, I believe it is Game Changer that presents Bloodsport, but it's Josh Barnett's event. If I think I'm understanding that correctly. But this is the second time that she's gone in at maybe the third at this point, and not like she did it ahead of time. We're talking about she was still an active, is an active WWE competitor, and she got a chance to go. And never mind the fact that this year Natalya, now that's probably a bigger deal than anything. No, all due respect to Shayna Baszler, who will be wrestling against Konami at Bloodsport 13 on April 17th. So let's just put that out there that she is going to be there for that. Who did she wrestle? Let me take a look here, because I do believe it's the third. Has a victory over the former TNA. Well, let me rephrase that. The current TNA Knockouts champion, Masha Slamovich, and Miyu Yamashita. So this will be her third time out. So good for her. But anyway, yeah, I think they being the WWE have not cared is not the right way to put it, because if they didn't, they'd have people all over the place. And I'm sure they don't want some of their talent going to some disreputable promotions or anything related to AEW, because that's their primary competition. But they have lightened the reins a little bit in the last couple of years, and probably because it doesn't make them any difference where they let these people go to and what they do, as long as it's not one of their primary guys or gals. That'll be shocking if they ever get to that point. But it's certainly not hurting them as part of the TKO family and the billions of dollars that they're earning. I'm sure having Baszler show up at somebody's independent promotion to have a match, it'd be great for them. And it may maintain Baszler's standing. And for that matter, when Natalya shows up, it would be great for her. And it'll probably help elevate her status amongst wrestling fans that exist outside of WWE. But when you look at the grand scheme of people that they let go and participate in other things like that, it is good for them. And I'm all for it. It almost makes me want to order this thing just so I can see what Baszler is going to do, and more importantly, in my view at least, what Natalya is going to do, because I think that might be the first time I would have seen her in over a decade and a half, maybe, her wrestling anywhere other than a WWE promotion or show, probably a better way to put it. So there's something to look forward to there. Also, what's going on in the world, speaking of crossover, we just had a crossover, which I just watched on TNA Wrestling. The Meta Girls came to Impact, and they got in there against the former TNA Knockouts tag team champions, Spitfire. Aside from maybe the end, I was fine with the match. I mean, by that particular point, I guess I was willing to accept what was going on there. But the wild child Jody Threat, who I do like, she started firing out like these ridiculous series of chops towards the end. I mean, I probably cannot do that any justice. You'd have to watch it. But in any case, without trying to spoil it, it was a NXT / TNA crossover. This thing seems to be happening quite frequently, quite often now. So, there's always that to kind of look forward to, and the crossing the streams of talent back and forth. It is every reason why I say the Knockouts Championship at this point can have an arguable case for being, would I say, the only women's world championship? It certainly wouldn't be regarded as simply a company championship by now. I mean, she still carries it on the indies. I have seen her defend that championship in another promotion. Now, granted, it was piggybacking off of wow, god damn it, I'm already getting ahead of myself. Piggybacking off of a TNA event, but it was still defended outside. It was their fourth rope, and I know she has done some other ones. And like I said, just appearing on NXT television with the championship helps. There is a very arguable case for Slamovich being a legitimate world's champion. And like I said, with the crossing of the streams and the NXT talent coming in and out, we know that we're going to get some more of that. Some more NXT people challenging for Knockouts titles, or I should say TNA titles in general. I am waiting to see who exactly is going to be the first person from the opposite company to win a championship. We've seen people challenge for those championships. Hendry challenged for the NXT title. Moose challenged for the NXT title. Cora Jade challenged for the Knockouts championship. We've seen a lot of that. We have not seen anybody be successful yet. So I'm wondering when they're going to pull the trigger on that. Speaking of Slamovich, I know I kind of rolled off into the Meta Girls, and I'm going to say if you have the time and the inclination, they did upload that match. So if you don't have TNA Plus, like I do, I sat up there and watched the show. But if you don't have that, they did upload the match. If you're interested in seeing Spitfire take on the Meta Girls. What was I with that? Masha Slamovich. The announcement. They are pulling the trigger on Slamovich going against Tessa Blanchard for the Knockouts Championship. I expect that match to be pretty good. What I concerned with is, are they going to pull the trigger on putting the title back on Blanchard? Slamovich at this point suffers from lack of true competition that would help elevate her standing as the champion. The thing that Jordynne Grace had when she was on her run, one, she was being pushed pretty strong. Two, she defeated a former WWE undefeated champion within TNA, that being Naomi, formerly Trinity Fatu there. I mean, that's her real name, but, you get what I'm saying. Trinity was undefeated. Jordynne came and took her out. I think beat her twice. And then she just went on this staggering run. And then that you include the fact that she was traveling around the country and in some cases around the world defending that. And showing up on WWE's television, at least more than, 3 to 4 times. All of that helped raise her profile. Slamovich hasn't had that yet. She has not been placed in a position to where she has gotten a chance to be elevated. Now, she did defeat the juggernaut Jordynne Grace. She has that on her, but she hasn't had, in my view, we're not talking about whether they're talented or not, but she has not had a quality opponent to wrestle that would help raise her profile. Blanchard could be that, but we also have to take into account that Blanchard still is Tessa Blanchard, and she has a poor public image in some regard. Like, there are going to be some people that have just moved on past that and they've forgiven it and whatever. You're always going to give that. But then you also have people who just have grown not to like her. And it feels like TNA has leaned into that by some regard, because I'm sure they didn't want to just bring her back and then just use her underneath. She's still a name, regardless of where on the fence you fall, what side of the fence you fall on. She's still a name. Whether you love her or hate her, you still have that. Now, do I think that they should put the title on her? No, I don't. I do not think that Tessa Blanchard should come in and just bump Slamovich off and then just, reign as the given champion. I think Slamovich needs it more than Blanchard does. Now, I will repeat that I do think that is going to be a pretty strong match. I think Slamovich and Blanchard will be able to deliver the goods. And that match has been added to Rebellion, by the way, if I did not say it earlier, which is why I'm talking about the match. It's going on the TNA Rebellion. It will be April 27th, and they will have that. What is that? Los Angeles. Hey, look at that. Los Angeles. They're going to be in Wild's backyard. From the Galen Center. Now, I don't know where that is. I'm going to have to ask somebody that actually lives out there. It's like, is this a big deal that they're in the Galen Center? Or I don't know what the seating capacity for that building is. I know recently they've been doing maybe 5,000 seat buildings, which is, pretty good, all things considered. But if they're doing anything bigger, I know I looked it up once. I don't remember what it is now because it's been some months ago. But that should be a pretty big deal for them. Anyway, getting back towards the match, before I started rambling off on that, I do not believe Tessa Blanchard should be getting that championship, but I do think that she should be used as a point of leverage to help Slamovich. Slamovich, this is probably going to be the biggest name that she has gotten a chance to get up against right now. And she needs some more of those. She needs some more quality challengers that can help raise her profile. Yes, she is the Knockouts champion. Yes, she should be regarded as the best women's champion that they have. But she needs people that she can beat, that have name value, that can help put Slamovich in a better position. Unfortunately, like I said, right now it feels like Blanchard is the only one there that could provide that. I don't know about everybody else. They haven't really gotten up to that level, and I don't know if NXT is willing to sacrifice anybody to go over there of any note to go over there and be beaten. I don't know if she's going to just randomly come across a match on the indies somewhere that against a top name that's going to help her profile, which I doubt, because even though it helps us with the wrestling fans, I don't know how often TNA does it. They will pull footage from independents when it helps back up, or another promotion when it helps back up whatever the narrative they're trying to get across. But I don't know if we can depend on that. So bringing it back around, I do feel like she needs this. She needs somebody to be able to take on and defeat. Having her lose to a Blanchard, when did she get the title? She got it at Bound for Glory, the 2024 Bound for Glory. So we're about what, 5-6 months into this thing, somewhere in there. It's been a good length of time, but it just hasn't been a reign that would set the world on fire, at least not yet. Great matches. There's been good matches, but I really feel like she needs that just to get her over the hump. Get her to the point where people can look at that and say that her championship reign is one of absolute quality. We also talked about at one point the ongoing and growing list of Diva Dirt's top 30 women wrestlers under 30. And at this point, as I'm recording, it just got up to number 27, that being Jada Parker, who is 26 years old. My one thing that I've been looking to see if it's going to take place is, will any WoW wrestler make this list? Will any of them? Because it's not just limited to one promotion. We got one from NXT. Well, two from NXT. Got one from the NWA with Kenzie Page. Got Anna Jay from AEW. So it's not just relegated to, well, who's the best under 30 in WWE? And that's a very easy trap for most places to fall into because, like it or not, the WWE has made themselves somewhat synonymous with wrestling to the average person. But fortunately, Diva Dirt doesn't qualify as the average person. They know better. They know that there's more than one wrestling promotion out there, and they treat it as such. But it will be interesting. I'm going to watch as this list unfolds itself and see whether they ever bring up anybody on that show. If they don't, it's just going to pretty much solidify what I thought about it already. Most wrestling promotions do not give a lot of credence to WoW Women of Wrestling. Probably for a variety of reasons, but we'll move on. And I just want to add this, is that they are still in the midst. They are still in the midst of talking about the rumors of Evolution or Evolution 2, a paper, not a pay-per-view anymore. I guess did they do a pay-per-view also? It might have did it simultaneously, the premium live event and a pay-per-view. But definitely a premium live event that took place back in 2018. It's been a while ago now. And now they are talking. The word has kind of been filtered out there that a Evolution 2 could be coming just ahead of WrestleMania? Or was that the release date that it was talking about? I think it was just that. the information. I don't know if they landed on a date or whatnot yet. Still feels like it's up in the air. But if it happens, if they do get a Evolution 2, 7 years, I think, after the fact, is that something that you would tune in to watch? Because a lot of the reason that they did it the first time is because they had a Ronda Rousey. And they could leverage her as a celebrity and a star, somebody with some star power against people watching. And even then, it wasn't enough for them to just keep that thing going. The event wasn't bad. They just, it just never repeated. Most all-women wrestling events seem to come and go short of the Knockouts Knockdown. That's the only one that I saw that actually went on for like a couple of years. But they did construct it in a way that they probably kept the cost of that thing down. Like minimized it. We're going to shoot it right here in this place. None of these matches are going to make a difference one way or the other to the average or the regular TV show. And we're already in this location. We already got the ring here and the setup. All we got to do is bring in some indie girls and balance this thing out. But outside of them, I really hadn't seen or heard of it. And they haven't done one of those in a while. But I realize it is a hard sell to do. So it takes some effort. It takes some effort. I don't think that they have as much risk that WWE does these days in trying to pull it off. Doing an Evolution 2, if they are in a building that they can feel relatively easy. Let's just say that they go to like TNA's been doing, like a 5,000 seat building, which I don't think is too difficult for them. If they can get to a point where they're doing that and they can fill that place out, then I say go for it. Don't make it a rumor. Don't make it just stuff that they talking about. Well, we're hearing reports and rumblings that there might be. They could probably get that thing filled up. A nice 5,000 seat building. They certainly have the talent. They have more than enough talent on their roster. On their rosters. Let's be honest here. You got the Raw women's roster, the SmackDown women's roster, the NXT women's roster. If you really want to push it, you got Evolution. Not Evolution, Evolve. They got some talent down there. They probably wouldn't use them because they're fairly new. But then there's the open door with TNA. I mean, they could load that thing up if they wanted to. It would not take them much effort at all to fill that thing out. Never mind the fact that it's not above the WWE to go reaching out to like top indie talent. See the Mae Young Classic, which they also stopped doing. All of that to say is that if they do kick off and they have a second Evolution, I would be very happy for it. More than happy to sit there and watch it and possibly do the review on it. But I just wanted to I just want to hear some concrete. I have not heard anything concrete. Everything that I saw right now has been tentative, and we don't know. It might be happening. It could be even, maybe. They have a report now that Nikki Bella has hinted towards her involvement in Evolution 2. And that was hinted at on her podcast, or her and her sister's podcast. And we also know that Bella's back into the fold of the WWE, even though they had their little falling out. Let's just take it for what it is. Most people that fall out with the WWE at some point, unless they just are bitter towards that place, will return at some point in time. So there we go. She may pop back in. She dropped her little tease. But will it happen? Time will tell. We will all see whenever that day happens to show up. So now that we've gotten past that, I think we can go off into the actual review. So for you people that's watching this on YouTube, we're going to leave this spot for our friends at YouTube to just fill in whatever heck they want to fill in for an ad spot. And when we come back, we will get to the full-on review of Wild World Wrestling and its most recent episode and how good or bad it was. And you probably already know where I'm leaning towards. So, when we get to that, stay tuned. Be right back.
Oh, honey.
I had a bad dream.
Only dreams that we make come true are real. We're gonna wish away all those bad thoughts. 1, 2, 3.
I promise you, my son, our lives together will be special.
Where's your little boy's father, anyway?
Mr. I ain't gonna marry no circus freak.
He done let me over this.
Billy Wolf! I'm really curious to see what you can do with her.
You barely know him. He's the only man that's ever believed in my dream.
We got a job to do tonight. You go out there, you wrestle your heart out.
When we can headline arenas, I know that we can.
I want to talk to you about putting 2 of my girls on your card.
My main event is heavyweights and then main.
Why would anyone want to limit the spectacle of competition based on gender?
Looks like we're cleaning up every night of the week now. It's got me thinking, Billy.
I want us secure as equal partners.
Then do what's right for business.
Honor the deal or we shoot.
You will do what I say, or you will find yourself cleaning toilets in some arena after my show comes through.
Ma, all the tickets you 2 ever sold had your name on them, not his.
Mr. McMahon, how can I get a guarantee that my ladies can wrestle in the state of New York?
Let's show them how we do it in the South.
Come on, Mom, get up. Remember. 1, 2.
I'm actually the highest paid female athlete.
In Washington?
In history.
And we are back. This episode of WoW that we are in the midst of reviewing or getting ready to is going to be WoW episode 329. The title, You Want It, You Earn It. The air date was March 29th. The chronological number is 133. And we got some storylines that they are tying in together in this episode, and you know they are of questionable routes. I've often said it's not necessarily match that they have is not the destination for them, it's the journey. And sometimes the destination sucks too, but the journey that they take you on as a viewer, hoping that you stay tuned and hoping that you have some interest in what's going on, the journey that they take sometimes can be a little bit rough. Sometimes they go way out of the way when the line to get to the end is straight. They just take a swift detour and go left and right and all over the road. And I hate to say it, this episode has one of those things in my opinion. Now, it's not that particular metaphor, them going off and taking detours and whatnot. The road here was pretty straight. It's just that it fell a little bit short of the destination, in my opinion. But we're about to get to that because it starts off with the person that I'm talking about. This episode begins with Genesis coming out to address David McClain, of course. And she is doing what most heels do in WoW. I want a title shot. Now I'm paraphrasing because, you know, I'm not remembering the complete verbiage, but that's what she's coming out for. She is then interrupted. She being Genesis. Interrupted by Samantha Smart. Now I'm going to stop right here and just say this. First off, this I cannot prove. This is one of these moments of this I cannot prove, ladies and gentlemen. But this segment here feels like, and I am going to use those terms, it feels like this was edited down from something longer. I cannot prove that. But I say it because of these things. One, we got Genesis coming out the ringside, and then she immediately turns to address Dave McClain. And when Smart comes out and she starts talking, whatever response that Genesis delivers to her does not seem to match what was just said. I mean, it just didn't. She's like, oh, I have some choice words for you, Smart, but they're probably not in your dictionary. I was like, well, it's a good line, I guess, but there was really nothing that Samantha Smart said that would key that response. It was like somebody having a, you know, lack of a better term, a verbal battle. I wouldn't call this necessarily that. But it's like somebody having words with each other, but I didn't hear what you said, and I'm not going to bother to try to jump on that. I'm just going to say the line that I had worked up in my head to deliver back to you regardless of whether it fits in this situation or not. I hope that makes sense. But that's what it felt like to me. It's like I've got this line to give back to Samantha Smart, but it's a line that didn't really reflect anything that was going on currently at that moment. But anyhow, yeah, that part felt like it might have been longer, that they might have had words with each other, that they might have gone an extra 20, 30 seconds. I don't know. But in editing, they're just like, all right, just trim all that crap out in the middle and just get it to this. That's what it feels like to me. Now, I cannot prove that. Somebody that's either in the WoW or the editor in the WoW would have to reach out to me and tell me, yes, that happened, or no, it didn't. So anyhow, Smart comes out and she, I want to say this nicely. When I say that Samantha Smart speaks with conviction, that is not necessarily a shining endorsement of performance. It is saying that she speaks with conviction. She's not meek in the promo or something along those lines. She's not mousy. She can project, and she has some level of heel angst that can be applied to what she's saying. However, I have to agree with, I can't remember who said it. I am not going to take credit for it, but I do agree with it, is that oftentimes her promos are somewhat wooden. Conviction or not, it is somewhat wooden. And then I'll add on top of that is that it feels also like Samantha Smart has to go through the effort of finding some larger word to apply to whatever promo that she's doing so that she can sound like the persona of Samantha Smart. This petulant child is intolerable, stuff like that. It's like she sat backstage for a minute, pulled up a thesaurus on her phone, and let me find some words that I can use. Because I just don't get this concept or the idea that she does that or speaks that way every day. And nor do I expect it. But it just doesn't feel like a natural thing that she would say, even in the context of being Samantha Smart. It's just like, I just want to say something that makes me sound like a smart person. And this is not a knock on whether she's smart or not. I'm not saying that she's not legitimately some sort of genius IQ. What I am saying is that she is not necessarily a genius promo for wrestling. There's been plenty of people out there who are just outstanding promos. She just is not one of them. So she comes out and she cuts Genesis off and starts talking about, Genesis needs to earn a title shot because Classmaster, we earned our title match, or title shot, or whatever. For whatever reason, David McClain is involved in this exchange also, which seems somewhat pointless, and another shining example of where does the buck stop and wow. Because under any other normal circumstances, it would be immediately Dave McClain like, well, I'm the one that's in charge of giving out title shots. For the last couple of weeks, he's been saying, well, you have to earn it. You have to earn it. You have to earn it. To imply that he had the final book over who gets the title shot and who doesn't. Otherwise, why does everybody else go out there asking him for a title shot if he's incapable of giving it? But it never occurred to anybody on the show, apparently, just to ask Samantha Smart directly, which is what this segment is showing you, because she comes out saying, well, we'll just hand out title matches. I didn't know that she handed out title matches at all. So in this instance, Samantha Smart is now in control over whether a title match is assigned to Genesis or not. And Dave McClain is kind of just standing back there like I have no power over this. We just have to do what Samantha Smart says. So she gives this offer. And again, why David McClain is crammed into this thing, I don't know. And I say crammed into because he really serves no purpose here other than to stand there and repeat and provide exposition, I guess, to the people that's standing there listening to these people talk and being explained to in the first place. He's just reinforcing it. So there's no point in him having to stand up, grab a microphone. Wait a minute, are you saying that you're going to give her a title match tonight? And there's no reason for that. If he's not capable of assigning a title match or booking the match, which is his job, but somehow in this instance it doesn't apply. If he's capable of doing that, then this segment is unnecessary. It would be another thing, like I used to use the term championship prerogative. Because there was always the instance that the champion would agree to a match beyond that of the matchmaker. You always had that. And it needed to be, at least in my world, it needed to be justified as to why the champion was capable of just, well, you want a title match, you got it. You know, I needed to be able to justify that. So I just started using the term, well, as champion, every champion has championship prerogative. They are going to be subject to the title matches that are assigned to them by the promotion and or the matchmaker. But given that they've fulfilled those obligations, you only got to defend once in every 30 days. Given that they've fulfilled those obligations, if they choose to defend another time beyond that, that's their prerogative. That was my out for that scenario, which is why I say that I think rules applied properly in some wrestling scenarios work well, because it at least give you some parameters as to what you can and can't do, opposed to what's happening right here. It's not a bad segment, but the segment is somewhat contradictory to what has been going on in a while previous to that. Like, again, somehow or another, Dave McClain is completely capable of giving title matches and assigning matches and saying somebody gets a championship match or saying they don't. He's completely capable of that. We've all seen it. But here, as I said before, it's like I have to just watch this take place in front of me, and I'm powerless to do anything about it. So getting back to the point, Smart comes out and basically says she has to earn her shot and leads Genesis and I guess by proxy the viewing audience to believe that, well, you know, you can have a match with the Classmaster. I'm paraphrasing. You have a match with the Classmaster. And just like, yes, I accept. That's what I've been looking for. And, you know, and then, of course, the rug's pulled out from underneath her. No, you get a non-title match. And if you beat her in the non-title match, then you earn a championship match. And Genesis is like, oh, you know, that's not what I wanted. But if that's what it takes for me to get to where I got to go, then I accept. Which is a very babyface thing to do. Like, if that's what it takes for me to do to get to where I got to go, then I accept it. I don't know what they're going to do with Genesis. I don't know what route they're taking here. Is she supposed to still be a heel here? Or is she moved over to babyface? Well, we have to address that as time goes on. So anyhow, she accepts the match. And, of course, David has to be on the microphone, and he has to reinforce that. And like as stated before, that seems to be his only purpose in this, is just to stand there, look dumbfounded, and reinforce the match that was just assigned and accepted in the ring. So I guess people there who, you know, might have heard this might have been deaf, or they needed to hear it twice so they can get the idea. Never mind the fact that, of course, Classmaster stands there like a goddamn mute and doesn't do anything except pose with the belt and point to herself and smile. I don't understand what this logic is in WoW, that if you have a manager, you lose all ability to talk. Unless you're Penelope Pink and the Fab Four. Like, those are the only ones who have a manager and they can still speak for themselves. But seemingly, no one else can. At least for the ones that are with a manager constantly. And the Classmaster is probably at the top of that list. She just does not say a word other than just stands around, smiles, stay here, look pretty. Hold the belt, look pretty. That's your job. And she is gimmicked out the ass. I'm sorry, that's just a side note. But she's gimmicked out the ass. The book, the cap, the gown, the schoolgirl outfit. It's just gimmick. Whew. And I have a hard time, as you know, taking her seriously. The Classmaster, the WoW Women's Champion. That is the selling point, or at least one of your company. And look what company she's keeping amongst national women's champions. Io Sky, Tiffany Stratton, Masha Slamovich, Kenzie Page, NWA Women's Champion. I think that the MLW Featherweight Champion, how you pronounce it, Delmy XO. I'm probably saying that wrong. But anyway, the point being is that is the company that she keeps. Those are her colleagues. All of them, and then you got the Classmaster. Like, who in that list of names doesn't fit? Anyhow, so we'll move on from that. Because I could probably go on and on about the Classmaster. Now I don't want to do that yet. So, Zane, after this has taken place, says that David was firm but fair. And I'm listening to this, and I'm like, well, what did he do? He was a non-factor in that entire exchange. I'm like, what did he do? What was so firm and fair about this situation? When they came out, Samantha Smart came out, offered her the match as a non-title thing, and if you do it, and if you win, then you'll get a title match, and then Genesis agrees, and that was it. And I guess, technically speaking, you got David McClain signing off on it. It's like, all right, well, fine. But what did he do? What about this was firm and fair? He didn't do anything. It was like Nigel Zane didn't hear a word that was going on in front of him and just like, oh, yeah, well, that was firm and fair, David. Good for you. Or again, that was part 2 of the original point. Or again, this was an edited piece and chopped down to a point that we missed out on stuff. And Wild does this all the time where I don't know how or why the editors there get placed in this position, but clearly there are people that don't watch the show all the time, but that's another point. Yeah, the moments like this when somebody says something, and again, this is getting back to what I brought up at the beginning of this segment review. It's another moment where somebody says something that doesn't feel or seem relative to anything that has just happened. And when I heard it, I was like, well, that was the first thought that went in my mind. I was like, well, what did David do? He stood there with the microphone in his hand, looking confused, like, well, and they kept the camera on him for a good amount of time, even though he wasn't talking, and it should have been on Samantha Smart at that time. And he hasn't provided anything for this. It's not like all right, well, here's a contract, or he was in the ring to mediate the exchange or something like that. I mean, they literally took care of this between the two of them on their own. As far as TV is concerned, now if Wild's going to turn around and be like, oh no, this was 5 minutes long, and I did go in there and do it. Well, it doesn't count because it wasn't on TV. If Wild does things that do not air, it does not count. I'm sorry. I know we've seen them do this before when, they'll mention something on their website or it'll be in their social media or something like that, or some interviews that never took air at all will be on Instagram. But if it does not air on their program, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of thing that happened. Doesn't matter if the segment was longer. Doesn't matter if there was actually a verbal exchange that people actually got into between Samantha Smart and Genesis. It doesn't matter. If it didn't air, means nothing. So anyhow, the next question I wrote down is, what is this supposed to build to? Where was this supposed to go? And keep in mind, I wrote that before I actually saw the match. So we will move on. So they talk about the match, and like I said, he says he's firm but fair. I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. He didn't do anything to be firm or fair with, but fine. And we set up for later on in the episode, we're going to have Genesis and the Classmaster, and with this stipulation. The next segment was Paola Mayfield, the Colombian GOAT, with her friend and manager, Abilene Maverick, taking on Chantilly Chella. I took a look at Paola Mayfield giving an interview. I had to do that because I think I had seen her once outside of WoW, preceding her joining the company and wrestling for them on a regular basis. I might have caught her one time. But when I did, I heard the accent, but it wasn't like she was unintelligible. You could understand what she was saying, but I could see why they might have wanted to minimize her speaking. Maybe. However, I was like, was it that bad to where she can't get on the mic at all? So I went back and I watched one. I was like, okay, yeah, there's a little bit of an accent there, and yes, she has some issues with her singulars and plurals, but she is also bilingual, and and she speaks English, and she can be understood. So why is she not talking? That same rules apply that I just said for the Classmaster, Samantha Smart. I don't know why it is that if you have a manager in some cases here, you just cannot speak for yourself. Now, does she need to be running around here trying to cut some cutting promo for, every time that she comes on TV? No, but she doesn't need to be a mute either. She was the only person that had some level of clout as far as, mainstream reach. An interview that I watched her do, by the way, I think it was All Access, something like that. And let me tell you, those comments that they left her were not nice. The people that tuned in because she was on 90 Day Fiancé and stuff like that, those comments were not nice. They did not care that she was a professional wrestler. And nor did they get the fact that she was a professional wrestler. And in defense of Mayfield, I thought that she went on that interview and she did good for being the wrestler Paola Mayfield, not the reality star Paola Mayfield. And I think that's what those people that were leaving the comments were wanting. They wanted the normal person. They wanted the regular person. They didn't want her to be on there in heel mode, talking up how it was that interviewer's pleasure to have her as a guest, which I thought was great. I mean, even through, it's not a heavy accent, but it's, you can hear it there. But even through that, it's like, yeah, she's on there as Paola Mayfield, the heel wrestler. And truth be told, I don't know if she did anything that I would consider violating her being a wrestler, her being in character and or gimmick, and still relating that to WoW. Now, yeah, that they have a few moments where they kind of get out of her being just a bad guy, so to speak. But by and large, she seemed like she remained where she was supposed to be. She talked in the tone and the lane that Paola Mayfield, pro wrestler, should have done. It's just that her fan base did not particularly care for it. Now, I bring that up to say two things. One, the original comment about I don't see why she has not said a word since she's been there. She doesn't do any promos. She doesn't get on the mic. Abilene speaks for her, and I got it to where I understood that Abilene was putting on, some extra emphasis on her annoyance, but now it's like really getting grating. So it would be nice if some of that, the weight of having to carry the promo wasn't all on her. And the other side of that is, although Mayfield has gone on All Access and she has some level of notoriety beyond WoW and WoW's fan base and whatnot, it is another case, in my opinion, that WoW has killed whatever it is that person had. Like, whatever special she had going into that, they've already minimized that. They talk about her being on these things. They talk about her having, she was the GOAT and she was, on reality TV and this, that, and the other. They talk about that. But there's really nothing that is shown to back it up. I think she should have had some photos, some set photos from the reality shows that she's been on, some interviews that she's already done. If they could acquire those and use some of the clips. If she had independent wrestling matches that's out there, they should have used some of that, something to set her apart to where she felt like a bigger deal. It didn't take WoW long at all to turn her into just one of the girls. And that's what she is. She is just one of the girls. They have minimized her down to where, okay, so what? She was on a reality TV show. And I'm not a big reality TV fan, but the facts are the facts. If she was on a reality TV show that I could have exploited to some degree, then I probably would have tried to do it. But here, that it just seemed like it did not happen. So anyhow, yes, Mayfield, she walks, talks, looks like a star when she's coming out and everything, but she is just one of the girls. It's a shame, but it's true. But she comes out and she's out with her best friend and all that good stuff, and we got Chantilly Chella, the resident put over queen, comes out there doing her thing, because, if she's coming out there, if there's any 10 matches, she might win one out of that, depending on who she's up against. She is there to make the other talent look good, and she's good at it. Raylan Chantilly Chella's good at it. But it's also one of them cases like, yeah, I can enjoy the match for what it is, but I'm not expecting anything different than when I walked in here with. I'm expecting Chella to go down in defeat. And speaking of Chella, and I'm not even going to say speaking of her, I'm just going to say that just for everybody. I don't know what it is that they tried to do in the editing bay, and this is one of those, this insults me as an editor. Why are you grabbing all these old clips to utilize? It's like they're taking stuff from 5 years ago when their looks were almost completely different and sticking them on TV. Yeah, I get it. It's the same person. And is it a big deal? Probably not. But it bothers me as an editor when I know that there's probably a folder on that computer desktop that's got 2025 footage of, or at least 2024 footage of everybody that's on that roster. Use something more current. When this match kicks off, Zayn puts Chella over as an international competitor, and I thought that was nice, even though we know that it means nothing in WoW. Because we're not going to see any of that. That's going to help solidify that narrative. And she's an international competitor under a different guise, so to speak. Once WoW is out, Chantilly Chella doesn't exist beyond WoW. Ray Lynn does. And Ray Lynn is an international competitor. Ray Lynn has been all over the Indies. And if they were going to try to, make the point like, hey, she's an international competitor and kind of world-renowned and has great wrestling pedigree, then she should have just been Ray Lynn. I didn't understand why they changed it to begin with, especially to name her basically after a concert. I mean, she's from the Coachella music festival. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? She's from the festival? Okay. So anyhow, I did appreciate the fact that he tried to sell Chella as a bigger deal. I talked about the look of Mayfield, which came out, and look, she looks the part. She looks the part of the confident star. Maverick looks like she should have been giving out hourly rates to the clients in Vegas when she came out there. No, look, I kid, but yeah, she did look like that. Anyhow, Chella, she always feels to me like she's putting her in a match to make her opponents look good. This was no different. And she did help Mayfield look good. The match in and of itself, not bad, but also did not have any real stakes, consequences, angle, storyline, whatever you want to apply to it. I've already given it this dumb babyface syndrome. I did not create that phrase, by the way. I think give that to Solar Monster. Her case of dumb babyface syndrome was, that Abilene Maverick is going to be at ringside. And I feel like I've said this before about Chella already in some previous incarnation, some previous match. But the same thing applies. She has like 4 or 5 different tag team partners and friends that she's been around and been with. Not a one of them can come down to ringside to help her out. Not one. Not Holidead, not Kalaki, not Tiki Chamorro, not Roxy Fierce. Like she being Chella seems like she's one of the people that's always there to help somebody else out. But no one's there to help her. Not even her own tag team partner, Holidead. But that's neither here nor there. Let's just move to the end of the match. And it's one of those cases that we get the Maverick we get Maverick intervening and preventing the win for her client's opposition. So at the end of the match, we got Chella. She's sizing up on Mayfield. She looks like she's trying to go for a cutter, and that didn't work out too well for her. I probably had gotten past the point that the real tide had turned. The tide turned when Maverick stopped Chella from getting up to the top rope. It was presented as this is a fairly competitive matchup. And there was no real true advantage one way or the other. But when Chella tries to get to the top rope, Maverick comes around and grabs a leg and prevents her from doing so. Now that prevention allowed Mayfield to come over there and yank Chella off and slam her in the middle of the ring. Why that happened in somewhere basically the middle of the match, I don't know. It would have, I prefer it being there than not. So the heel at least cheated or the manager did something to help. But I just thought it would have been a little bit closer to the end, which it wasn't. But, better used than not used at all. I will accept that. I might have liked it in a different position, but, hey, it is what it is. But getting back to how this thing finished up. So we get Chella. She regains control. She gets Mayfield in the corner. She's sizing up. She gets ready to go for her cutter. Or at least what we assume to be her cutter just based on the way that she hooked up on Mayfield. Mayfield counters it, gives her like a shot in the back of the head, runs off into the ropes and gives her neck breaker. Now, the neck breaker. I don't know if I'm really a big fan of Mayfield's move. It kind of looks nice, but it just seems so ridiculous that this very loose knit neck breaker. I was like, she's not even using 2 hands. She's just basically running at her and kind of pushing her with the one hand as I turn my body, and then that's just enough to knock you out. I was like, no thought should be applied to this particular finish. You can't look at it and be like, oh, wait a minute, how is she knocking this person out doing this? Because it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, it don't. I honestly would prefer if she just did a standard neck breaker at this point. Because the one that she does just does not seem like it would do the job in the least. Just an old school, I get 2 hands, jump up in the air and pull that thing, bam. That feels like it would be a stronger finish than what she's doing. But it's kind of the same deal that I said about Gianni in one of the earlier ones. I know that they're trying to get finishers that could be aesthetically pleasing, look good on TV and all that, and unique to them. But you also want something that would at least look like it would keep you down. And this just doesn't look like it could keep you down. Not at all. But anyway, she gets it. She wins, and there you go. Paola Mayfield is the winner of the match. And this match also had Chella's name was overused. It's like they just Chella going up to the top. Chella running off the ropes. Chella. She's bouncing off of this. Chella. Like, God damn, with this. I had gotten to the point where I was okay with the name, but this match made me hate it all over again. Because anytime they talk about somebody, it has to be their full name. It can't just be Chella. It's got to be Chantilla Chella. Can't just be Jinx or Katarina. It's got to be Katarina Jinx. Anyway, after the match, McLean talks about Chella being that was the funny thing. He talks about Chella being a potential title contender like 5 seconds before she gets beat. She could be up for the title. 1, 2, 3. And okay, maybe not. But then we get Maverick's promo again. We don't hear Mayfield speaking because her vocal cords don't work on Wild TV apparently. And as annoying as the tone is, at least Maverick puts Mayfield over. She puts out, I can't take that away from her. She put her over. And probably one of the better promos to put somebody over in that company, particularly their client, so to speak. I'm trying to think, is there anybody else that I would consider that did as well? I mean, it's not like it's some Grand Slam hallmark promo that's going to go down for the ages, but it was good for this. It can be annoying at times, don't get me wrong. She still has an annoying voice and is still grating on my nerves. But she went and she tried to put some shine on Paola Mayfield, as she should, and I appreciated it. So this, between the two of them, I think it's a thumbs up connection. I just wish it was more a shared weight that they carry. Mayfield doesn't need to be completely silent. Though, before we get out of this, McLean, I don't even know why they didn't edit this out, but he incorrectly says that Genesis has the next title match, and then Zayn has to correct him. Like, you're not paying attention on your own show. Those should be notes. But he's sitting there, Carol's like, and tonight, Genesis will have the next title shot or whatever. And Zayn has to sit next to him like, if she wins. And then they go off to the next thing. Before the break, they sell a major announcement. The second, this is not an exaggeration, like the moment that was done with it, talking about, and when we come back, he's got a major announcement, fans. You're not going to want to miss this. The moment that thing was done, I wrote, this feels oversold. Because I could not imagine that there's any announcement that they could create or say that would be so major that I was like, oh my God, I have to watch this now. It just felt like an oversold thing. It felt like you remember the portion with Tony Khan for AEW, like it was just week after week. Tony Khan has a special announcement. Next week, Tony Khan's got a special announcement. Tony Khan's got a special announcement. And then the special announcement was like, tickets are on sale. Like it started off as something special. And then it just dwindled down to that. That's what this gave me the vibes of. Now, I didn't expect him to be like, hey, and tickets I didn't expect that. But I also didn't expect some earth-shattering announcement that was going to be like, oh, man, I have to watch this now. It just felt like, okay, well, here's another match announcement that's about to happen. And I doubt that there's going to be anything that's so significant that, well, it's earth-shattering news. Because this isn't going to just affect one person. This is going to affect multiple people. I was like, oh, okay. So, but anyway. We get another segment following this, of course. And it is a segment recapping Big Rig versus Holly Swag. And this leads to him announcing for a 4-way championship match. And I wrote down, I'm not really sure how. And I have to say, the full disclosure there is, as some of you know, I watch this when I'm on the job, right? We're monitoring stations. And I happen to be there to monitor these stations when WoW airs. So I don't always get the chance to hear every single word he says. I have to come back home or, maybe look at it on YouTube so I can listen to the verbiage, because the commentary is just as important to hear and or critique as the match in and of itself, because of moments like this. And when I looked at it initially, I was like, well, how's he getting to this? Where he's talking about a 4-way championship match coming off of Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag and the chaos that took place afterwards. I was like, what chaos took place after that? Nothing happened after it that we saw. Repeating the rule earlier, if it didn't happen on TV, it didn't happen. But I was like, what is he talking about? The tag team match that happened prior to that led to this? And as I was thinking about that, it's like, this feels completely out of sequence. And it's the only thing I can think of that would justify what he's talking about. But why are you waiting weeks after the fact to address that? I mean, I had to really, really verify this just to be sure. This is another one of those cases of this annoys me as an editor. Watch the segment. He's talking about, he specifically says that after the match with the mother versus the daughter. Nothing happened after that. They went to credits. If anything should have been used as a visual aid as to why they got to this match, it should have been the championship tag team match that Holly Swag, Penelope Pink had against Big Rigs and Bourbon. That then led to Miami Sweet Heat coming down to break up the match, and then Princess Aussie and Tormenta coming down to stop them. That's what should have been used. How they got to this and how this passed by everybody's eyes as this is perfectly fine, it's okay, just let it air as it is baffling to me. It's baffling to me. Because it doesn't tell the story. And it's like they're completely fine with just being subpar and close enough. Nothing about what he was talking about told that story whatsoever. And it makes him come off as unreliable. I know I've said this a long time ago about him and whoever else he has working with him. Once the commentators lose credibility, it begins to, get to a point where, why am I listening to you? I don't trust what you're saying. I mean, I'm not saying people actively go around like, well, I don't trust Dave. No, I'm saying that subconsciously you lose trust in him. Because he just says whatever. And it means nothing. And And then this thing happened weeks ago. When did it aired on the 8th of March? The match that actually keyed off, or the match that should have tipped off this 4-way. That was almost a full 30 days as of me recording this. It's that far off. And it's another one of those cases of, well, if it was so chaotic and such a problem that it led towards this, how have we not heard another thing about it? No one said anything about it that was part of the alleged chaos. None of those things. I mean, they have the weakest builds towards matches, which is why I was like, I have no doubt that whatever major announcement they talk about will mean nothing. And it didn't. It didn't mean anything. It didn't even sell it right in the goddamn package. So why would I take this seriously? Why would I care? And that legit just bothered me. How do you even do that? Don't you have weeks to get this stuff done? You shot everything inside of a month. There should not be a reason in the world that you can't get this thing edited, looked at, take this out, I like that, keep that, whatever. There shouldn't be a reason in the world that you can't do that unless you're just under the gun of, we only got this editing bay for like an hour, so let's hurry up. It was so disappointing. And I know they were trying to sell the match. That's what this segment was for. They were trying to sell the match, but this felt like it was completely out of sequence. And I wrote down, what match chaos is he talking about? There was no after-match chaos for the mother-daughter thing. And they didn't show any after-match chaos for it. All they showed was clips of the match. And based on the visuals that you saw, there's nothing there that would lead you to believe that, well, because of these two having a match, well, we got to have 4 different teams coming here. What does Princess Ozzy and Tormenta have to do with that? For that matter, what does Miami Sweet Heat have to do with it? If they'd gone to Big Rigs and Bourbon versus Penelope Pink and Holly Swag, then yeah, I can see that. But it didn't lead towards that. It didn't come back around to it. They just, as far as that video package is concerned, they just added in 2 other teams. And let's just call a spade here. One of those teams is just there to fill space. The story that's being told within that is Penelope Pink and Holly Swag and the issues that they have generated with Miami Sweet Heat. It's an internal issue that happens to have 2 other teams on the orbit of it. Big Rigs and Bourbon have to be there because they're the tag team champions. Outside of that, there's very little reason that they will be a part of it. There's even less reason for Princess Ozzy and Tormenta. They just feel like they're just bodies in this. And that's not their fault. It might have meant something else if they had won their match, or if they got cheated out of it. Well, they won the first one. If they gotten cheated out of their match with Miami Sweet Heat, I can understand that they had some gripe to come back out and with that would necessitate a return or something along those lines. It's these moments where I'm like, did they plan any of this at all? Did they know that they were going to get a return match or try a return match or go to a foot? Did they have any concept of this? Because why did you beat them clean? They have no reason to be there. And then again, the edit of this show. We get out of this video package, and following the package that we just showed on TV, and bear in mind that when we're talking about stuff being shown on TV, we are assuming that the commentators are there to see this too. They should be watching the same thing that we're watching because that's how they present it. But soon as this is done, Nigel Zane sounds like he doesn't have a goddamn clue who's in this match, despite McLean saying it seconds earlier. Well, I know that Big Rigs and Bourbon's going to be in there, but who else is in this thing? It just showed up on the scene like 20 seconds ago. And all that served to do is just make him sound like an idiot or somebody that's not paying attention to what's on in front of him. And I like Nigel. But why couldn't you edit this part out? Why couldn't you edit that question out? Because it didn't need to be there. You just showed it. And worse, like, why are you trying to make that? Well, I shouldn't say why. I was going to say, why are you trying to make this a big deal? Because it ain't. But I'm going to retract the why, because they should try to make it a big deal. They should try to get something out of it. I just don't think that they can, and I don't think that they will. The next segment is the match featuring the returning Sylvia Sanchez. Good old, I miss Sylvia. I ain't seen her in a long time, and I like Sylvia Sanchez. This might have been the first time I've seen her actually walk out there and get some facial expressions and yell at the camera, talk to it, all to show some fire of some description. I just hate that she has been underutilized just beyond belief. But it's Sylvia Sanchez, and she's taking on the Holidead. And the first thing I wrote when this match, I was like, where has Sanchez been? Who knows? And we get Holidead, who comes out just after her friend was cheated the match before. So we know how much she cares. She's in the building. She didn't come out to do anything, but, whatever. So we have this, and this was, in my definition, I was like, this is clearly filler. I mean, it's good. I enjoyed the match. But Sanchez is just coming back. Holiday has been there, but she's not doing anything. So, and neither one of them are involved in anything of any significance. I mean, Holiday maybe on the alliance deal, but in that, I'm sure by the time they roll that back around, we'd have forgotten all about it, and they're gonna have to reheat this angle to try to make it worth something. But on its own and in the vacuum, I was fine with this, and like I said, I do like me some Sylvia Sanchez. I just hate that she has not been placed in any sort of position that she could get anything done in this company. She's been a part of the same tag team, but neither version of it did anything. Las Banditas with Evelyn Rivera and what was the other? Angel Rose. Then what was that, after the Fury? Then remember that? We got that tag team for a minute or two. Just some random team just thrown together. And we got a couple of more of those coming apparently. But anyway, getting back to the point. She's always the bridesmaid, never the bride in this particular instance. Doesn't really seem to do all that much in there other than much like a bizarro Chantilly Chella. I'm here to do good work and help other people look good. Ah, my poor Sylvia. Poor Sylvia. I love you, honey, but they just treat you so bad. So anyhow, this match is somewhat of a showcase on Holidead and how strong she is and, how she can take care of business in the ring. But Sanchez looked great in there, too. It's amazing what you might get when you have two professionals in there that can actually maximize their minutes and make some stuff happen. Like, even from the first time, even the lockup, I enjoyed them two doing that. Sanchez gets pushed back. She gets up on the ropes. She's forced to make the break, and then Sanchez is screaming and hollering at the ref. Like, you can see the anger in her. This is about as expressive as I have seen her. She used to come out stone-faced. She was almost like Dean Malenko back in the mid-90s. She's the ice woman. He was the ice man back there, but that's what she was almost like. But here I don't know, did somebody talk to her in the backstage, or the switch just flipped and she just decided, hey, I need to let these people know how I'm feeling. Whatever it was, I wish I could see more of that. I don't know if I need to see more of it here, but I'd like to see more of it somewhere in some wrestling ring with some people that can do something with her that'll get her over and make her look like a winner instead of having to be jobbed out every chance you get. So the long and short of the match is there was a nice exchange between the two. Like I said earlier, this seemed like a good showcase of Holidead and her strength. She at one point did a tilt-a-whirl side slam and all that. The match ended when Sanchez found herself shoved backwards into the ropes by Holidead. She tried to pick her up. Sanchez did. She tried to pick up Holidead in the front face lock, looking like she might be going for a suplex or something, but we'll never know that because Holidead shrugs her off, like I said, backwards. Sanchez goes back into the ropes, comes off, and she gets caught in the spine buster. And it was a good-looking spine buster, and that was it. It almost looked like she wasn't supposed to get pinned because it looked like Sanchez was about to try to kick out. But it didn't go down that way. Holidead got the win, and Sanchez can strike another one in the loss column for herself. Match is fine. As before stated, or as stated before, whichever you prefer, it just felt like filler to me. Nothing wrong with that, but it was just like, all right, well, we got an hour, so let's just put this in here. Got to make sure that we buff out that hour. McLean going into the next segment. He was promoing for the Fatal 4-Way match, and he calls it a 4-way fatal. He's getting to do that a lot. Then he preps the viewers versus the next match, which is going to be Genesis and Classmaster. And this is another case of they're using obviously old and outdated footage of Genesis. Why are they doing that? It's not like it's hard to see. They got big close-ups of it on the screen. It was like this is the hairstyle she had when she first got in the company, not close to what she's got now. And why? I mean, I'm sure you have other footage that you can utilize in this spot. Doesn't require you having to grab stuff from 2018 or whenever they started doing it in the first place to show her. But never mind the match that we're about to roll into, because I haven't gotten exactly to that yet. I just hated that they keep using this outdated footage because they did it again when the match started. It's one thing to promo with it, and I didn't like it there, and I certainly don't like it in the match. But the segment after the promo is Santana Garrett entered the arena, and she comes over to the commentary booth, and I wrote, why? Why is she coming to the commentary booth? She has nothing to do with these two. I do appreciate that she at least tried to justify why she was there. The justification there being, well, Genesis was out there for my match, so I want to be out here for hers. Now, that's weak justification, but at least she attempted to justify it somehow. Because to the best of my knowledge, it's not like Genesis got up and distracted her or did anything that would otherwise cause Santana Garrett to lose to where she needed to come back out here like, well, I need to watch her too. Like, she legitimately sat in the commentating booth and didn't do anything. And for Genesis, it did make some sort of sense. Like, hey, I at least need to come out here and see how to get a title or get myself in the vision or in the line of sight of the champion so they know that I'm on them. With Garrett, it's just, I'm here just to be here. The effort was there. It's a weak effort, but I guess we have to take what we get. Classmaster's facial expressions will continue to drive me up the wall. I cannot stand them. This is every reason that I say this is who you have amongst all the other national women's champions. And you name them just one after the other, and then in that list you had the Classmaster. If I were trying to sell the idea of WoW and his champion as being comparable amongst the field of other women's wrestling champions, I would have a legitimate hard time doing it. If I was trying to show people that. Because I know the first thing is like, who is this clown that you're showing me with the making these stupid faces, and then what she do? Just graduate college? Why is she out here? You know, none of her sells this show in a significant fashion. And they use the worst videos of her that they can get. I mean, we already know that she makes the faces. Pointing to the title, pointing to the camera, wide-eyed, and ooh, and all that stuff that she does. But man, I mean, it's getting to where it's like a rough watch to see that pop up on my screen. Because I just cannot take it serious. I just can't. I'm sure somebody out there in the world can. And I'm sure somebody out in the world just loves the Classmaster like she's the greatest thing since an egg white omelet or something. But I am not one of them, and I just cannot do it. Speaking of which, I know Santana had made some comment about, like, I still have hope for the Classmaster. I'm surprised that you heard that I have hope for her. But yes, I do feel like if she had gone somewhere else, did something else, got away from the influence of WoW and this stupidity, and you could get her away from probably her instinct to just be silly, if you could probably get something out of her in that. I don't know if you'll ever get her out of the instinct to be silly. Both ways that I've seen her, either as Lois Grain on the Indies or as the Classmaster in WoW, there is some element of silly that's just in reverse. Or, you know, something along those lines. Classmaster is silly outside of the ring. She's overly gimmicked outside of the ring. When she's in it, you know, they do make the effort to try to make her look dominant. Lois Grain, to the matches that I've seen, does not look like she is making an active effort to be dominant. She's wrestling like everybody else, but she also is like a Bizarro World version of Gloria Glitter or Delilah Doom. She's an aerobics instructor that decided to hit the wrestling ring. Maybe if you peeled both of those things away and you could create your own version of her, you might be able to get something off, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. I'm pretty sure her being the Classmaster is like the highlight of her life and career, and probably very happy to be there. And look, I'm not going to fault her for that. She should be proud of herself that she's on national TV. She should be proud of herself that she is a champion of some description. I just thought that she could get more out of it, because to me, in the position that she's in, you're still trying to get people to want to watch WoW and not to laugh at it, or not just to, hey, she looks hot. You're not gonna be able to avoid that in a lot of cases, but you do want to give somebody a reason to come back. And I don't know if the Classmaster is a reason to come back. So anyhow, let's get back to the match. So, Classmaster comes out. She's got her book in her hand. Like I said, she's just overly gimmicked up. cap, gown, book, manager with a yardstick, schoolgirl outfit. I mean, just ugh. Doesn't say a word. Smart comes marching down the ringside along with her so we can minimize the fact that Classmaster's 6'2" to begin with. And then we got our heel versus heel match. I am not opposed to, or nor do I say, hey, you should never have a heel versus heel match. But I didn't really get why they got to this one without any sort of out or clear path behind it. If you're listening to this now, it's a very good chance you've already seen this match, so I'm not spoiling anything to say that Classmaster is still the champion. No, I do not refer to her as a world champion. No, I don't refer to anybody in the WoW as a world champion because WoW does not have a world championship. WoW has a company champion. And she is the champion of WoW. That much is true. But world champion, nah, I don't think so. It's world title by name. If you ain't defending it outside of that building or outside of that location, ain't no world championship. And now, just to be fair to WoW, that's not something that started with me because of them. I developed that pet peeve going to indie shows. That was like one of the things that I just grew to hate. Because almost every indie show, like, no, world title. Like, world title? Are you kidding? You don't defend this place, that thing out of nowhere other than Blue Ridge, Georgia. How's it a world championship? But I honestly think that the same rules apply to WoW. It's, they can call it whatever they want to, but it ain't no world's title. So anyway, Garrett is out there at ringside, and she's sitting at the commentating booth, and boy, I know I got on Xena Phoenix for being bland and just like overly goody, and it's a good old college try, and I'm happy to be here, and I'll just do this and that, and I thought that she was bad, but good grief. I don't know what happened. Santana Garrett did not have any sort of personality here. She was just generic babyface number 2. It was a lot of I'm happy for her and well, you might not get a title shot. And she, I'm more than happy to wait my turn, David. I was like, man, she just, whatever personality that she had preceding this, like, went completely down the drain. It's just WoW's version of what a babyface is supposed to be. Everything is perfectly fine. Nothing to get upset about here. And if I have to wait until you deem me worthy to be the champion at some point, David, then gosh darn it, I'm going to wait for my time and my turn. The babyfaces here outside of a Jesse Jones generally do not have a lot of flair to them. But this match is also a good old angle alert match, or at least walking into it, it had an angle alert. The second that they come down is like, all right, it's a non-title match. And then they start harping on the fact that it's a non-title match. Only put doubt in my mind. I was like, you know what? I'm starting to feel like she might not pull this off. Now I'm going to say it was less of an angle alert than their main event. Their main event was absolute angle alert. There was no doubt in my mind there. Here I thought, okay, it's non-title. Maybe she'll be able to skate by. Maybe we'll get a quick roll up or something like that. Or she'll pull the tight. She'll score that win. Whether she be in Genesis, maybe that'll happen. But as this went on, I was like, I'm not really sure now. And not because of anything they did. It was more a case of WoW's track record does not tend to be that they would do something logical like that. And I hated to have that thought because I honestly was rooting for Genesis here. Because that would necessitate a return match, and that return match would be for the championship. And it would be her particular story coming to some sort of head, if you will. But none of those things happen. So we get to the match. Genesis start out aggressive, but Classmaster cuts her off. It's just, like I said, it's heel versus heel. Genesis, in theory, in a sympathetic role. And I say in theory because she still was a heel, but she really didn't get the chance to kind of sell the reasons that she's going after the championship, what it means to her, to get people on the side. So it wasn't really that, and the crowd sucks there anyway. They just clap for everything. And so we got this match going on, and not only, let's just get to the end of it. Not only does Classmaster beat her, but she beats her clean. Like, there isn't even the discussion of, well, Genesis could have won if, or she got close. Samantha Smart didn't interfere. There was no foreign object. There was no tights pulled. It was just Classmaster defeated Genesis. End of story. How did she defeat her? Well, Genesis tried to go for her like tornado kick. Classmaster ducks out of the way of that, and then she hoists Genesis up on the shoulders and then tosses her down, and whatever move that happens to be. And that was it. 1, 2, 3. She was done. And I sat there and I watched this and I was like, that was it? Like, man, okay. And I really hated that doubt crept into my mind during this match based on Wild's booking, if nothing else. That is the only reason that it crept in my mind here. Not like the main event. Here, it was just because of I don't know if I trust Wild to get through this. And they didn't. Another thing, that the finish was flat. Classmaster had used the big boot to finish off a couple of her matches a few weeks back. Several weeks back. That was like the end. Like she revs up, kicks it with the boot, 1, 2, 3. And then she just stopped and started using something else. She, like a lot of other people there, had not established a finish that people could recognize or understand that if I hit you with this and you kick out of it, is a big deal. Like, there's a point in the match where she kicks Classmaster kicks Genesis with the big boot and Genesis kicks out of it. But it didn't garner any sort of response from that audience because they hadn't been educated to the fact that the big boot is the finish. But I doubt that audience would have responded well anyway. Like it's just one long, ongoing applause unless somebody tells them to do something different. But that happened. It didn't get a response. Then she hits her with this firewoman slam. And it just came out of nowhere and she just beat her. Just 1, 2, 3. I put down, is this Genesis Angle's blow off? What does she have to complain about? Because that would be the next thing. If she shows back up and she starts this all over again, like, oh, well, I didn't get a title shot and I'm not in the main event and I deserve the championship match and blah, blah, blah. Well, how does she justify that now? And more importantly than that, why would they put her out there in a title, well, not a title match, in a match for the title shot and then have her go just be beaten? Back to I find myself coming back to the same points. It's like they did not give this any thought as to, well, what are we going to do with her? Where is this Angle going to go? Is she going to get the championship? Is she going to get the championship shot? If she does, how do we get out of it? Where is she gonna go beyond this point? It's like none of those things came up. No one asked. I'm sure Genesis is not going to want to rock the boat about what her booking is. They probably just say, hey, look, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. Let's give her the match, and she'll go in there, and you'll do the job, and, then we'll find something else for you. This was weeks of TV. Weeks. They dedicated weeks of television to her. And this story of her going after the championship. However minute that story might have been. But this is every reason that I say I have lost all faith that WoW can tell a story coherently or finish it up with anything meaningful. I mean, because what are they going to do now? Santana Garrett just going to be like, all right, well, I deserve another shot. Why? Or Genesis, oh, well, I should have another shot because I got cheated. Well, no, you didn't. You lost clean. Where are we going with this? Why was this the match to have? Why was Santana Garrett out there? What was this supposed to accomplish? It didn't meet anybody, on any sort of common angle ground or storyline ground. It's like one person's story just stopped. The other one is already just in limbo. And then you got the champion. Well, let's attach some names to this. Genesis' story for chasing the title looks like it stopped. Garrett is in limbo. Classmaster is just the Classmaster and just wandering around for whoever else is going to challenge her and letting her mouthpiece talk for her completely. I have no idea where this is going to go. And at this point, nor do I care. So, oh yeah, I forgot. I put this note ahead. McLean during the match, and I'm sure he was doing this to try to get the Classmaster over as some sort of bigger deal. And he brings up the Battle Royal. Like, yeah, the Battle Royal, which no one else won but the Classmaster. Like, well, how many people are supposed to win it? He has an odd way of phrasing things. Because the way that it sounds is like, well, it could have been 3 or 4 people that won, but no one else won but the Classmaster. Who else is supposed to win? It's a Battle Royal. It's only one person that's going to win this thing. Like I said, there are times where he has an odd way of phrasing things. I promise I am not trying to pile on Dave McLean or what he does and what he says and how he presents on the show, but man, I really wish he would take the time, just honestly take the time to reevaluate whether or not you should be on TV doing all of these things. When you should probably be in the back, keeping the show running smooth, come out every once in a while as a general manager or executive producer, whatever title he wants to get on himself, and make that special. Does not need to be out there every week doing commentary, because I'll be honest, in my view, it's just getting worse and worse. That's what I think. I feel like his commentary is getting worse and worse, and nor does he give the feel for what the match is supposed to be. And the show edits don't help it. See the 4-corner match that they're going to have in that video package. So we go to the next segment. And this is a recap of Top Tier, the Dojo Defenders, Ashley Blaze, and Xena Phoenix. For whatever reason, this has 2 different voiceover artists that are doing this. It starts off with a guy, and then it just, like a woman picks up I don't know why they did that, but okay. And then during this, they talk about the recruitment of Xena Phoenix, which was never shown. It's another one of those things that, well, this happened on Wild. Like, well, we never saw that. We never saw them recruit her. We never saw her ask for, hey, we need your help. We never saw those things. It's just one day she was in the locker room with them, like, we can't let them get away with this. You know, that's all it was. And we'll show them. They were trying to make this feel big and make it seem important, but this is another one of those poor builds of a wow angle. And it is absolutely that. This is a wow angle through and through. An angle that had no stakes to it, an angle that has almost zero consequence and poorly constructed. That is a wow angle. And so this predicated on the idea that Top Tier has been so out of control and so mean and so vicious that they nearly broke the leg of their friend. Keep that in mind. That is what they're fighting for, right? You nearly broke the leg of our friend. They didn't do it, but they came close. Injury. And coming out of this, McClane is sounding gleeful and happy, like, and coming up next is going to be, it was like, well, way to maintain the tone here. And the previous video package that they had already leaned into the idea that Ashley Blaze's knee is very likely to have some issues. This also gave you the idea that Ashley Blaze's knee might have some issues. So there's some foreshadowing there. I don't know what's up with that place. I really don't. Why is everybody there just hurt and get it? Like, Top Tier didn't need to do anything to Tara Strike. They should just let her wander around wild for a little while. She'd have got hurt on her own. Apparently just being there is enough for you to get injured eventually, or probably getting in the ring with somebody who's untrained and doesn't know what the fuck they're doing and probably get them hurt. So they got to be off TV for a while. But you can blame whoever it is doing the hiring for that. Because I'm sure they're under the impression like, well, we'll just train you. We'll show you how to be a wrestler. This shit's easy. So anyhow, it is the old let's get everybody together and band. We talk about the baby faces here. The hodgepodge group of Kara Kai and Xena Phoenix and Ashley Blaze in the Wild locker room with the cooler that they bought from Home Depot that somebody tried to spray paint purple and couldn't quite finish. And so they could stick the Wild logo on top of it. Like, was it really that important that thing had to be purple? I don't know why that grabbed my attention, but it did. It's like it just caught my attention. And that was largely seen in the previous video package. I just had to bring it up because you had a little glimpse of it. But yeah, you can go back in there and look at it. It's like, man, who sat up there and tried to spray paint this thing purple? I got an idea. Let's make this thing purple so everybody know that it's a Wow cooler. Oh, boy. So anyhow, following the video package, like I said, McClane came out of that sounding nice and gleeful about this revenge match, and they made sure to let you know that this is a revenge match. It's not for a title. It's for revenge. I'm like, okay, this complete angle alert. If it ain't for the titles, we know that Top Tier is going to lose. And really, why did the revenge match, I'm not big on the name, but whatever. Why did the revenge match have to be non-title? Like, is having revenge on somebody mean that the title is not worth going after? Now, I say that because, yes, I am a full subscriber of the idea that sometimes it needs to be more important than the championship. It needs to mean more than that on some occasions. I don't know if this is the occasion that I would apply that to. Like, hey, we don't need the championships in order to make you guys pissed off and get even with you. We know all we need is the match. And I am not of the mind that, okay, because you want revenge doesn't mean that they don't want to take the belts off of them. If anything, I would think that would help. Because if I was trying to get even with somebody on any level in a wrestling environment, well, yeah, I want to beat them up. And yeah, I want to, get my revenge physically. But in this particular instance, they parade the championships around like it's the Holy Grail. If I were going to try to make them feel bad or really stick it to them, then yes, I want the title shot. I want to beat them up too, but I want the title shot. Because I know it'll make you mad when I win it. It's that. But whatever. And I'm getting ahead of myself, by the way. The segment that followed that particular video package was the promo for Santana, Garrett, and Scout Parker. It looked good. It was edited very well. But I also wrote, seriously? Like, this is supposed to be a selling point for me tuning in next week. Santana Garrett versus Scout Parker. Now, nothing against neither one of them. But Scout Parker has been presented, and I will say she's been presented like a complete afterthought and jobber. And the idea that she would win this match is laughable. I would be shocked if she does. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'll be shocked. And speaking of Scout Parker, you talk about somebody else that they just kind of wasted, at least in terms of an angle. She was wasted. I mean, the ice cold to Scout Parker transition, as I understand it, was good for her because she was more in line of Scout Parker as a persona than she was ice cold. And that's fine. And I have been won over to some degree by her effort in the ring. And I really wanted to see her get somewhere with it, but it's like, what was the point of take her not liking ice cold as a persona off the table? What was the point in the change? It's another one of those wild things. It was the most poorly done transition of a character I have ever seen. She loses a match, probably like one. She wasn't even presented as having a losing streak. She lost one match, flipped out about it, threw her stuff away, came back as Scout Parker, didn't say why, when, or how she became that. It was entirely dependent on David McLean and Nigel Zane to explain it for her. And from that point on, maybe she won a match, and then she won a tag match with a partner that disappeared following the second tag match, and then she's just been on a losing streak ever since. Like, the change to this new persona meant nothing. And I would tend to believe if they're going to do changes like that, that at least have some monicum of a direction that they might go. Or something that they can lead to, something that would give her some sort of purpose. Scout Parker has not had purpose. She's just there, and she's giving match after match, and that's great. But in the context of her becoming Scout Parker and why, it did not fit because nothing came from it. Nothing came from that. It didn't make her any better a presence on the show. It didn't make her any bigger a star. It didn't give her a better win-loss record. Didn't even aim her towards a title of anything of any sort. Nothing came from that. And never mind the fact, like I said, she's been on a losing streak. So why would I care that Santana Garrett, the person that they constantly carry on, well, she's a former world champion, former world champion, former world champion. Why would I care that she's in the ring with Scout Parker? Unless Scout pulls off an upset, which I sincerely doubt is going to happen. If she does, then bravo to her. But why would this be an attractive match? Top tier and the match in the main event, them taking on Blaze, Kai, and Phoenix. That is the next segment. And the ring announcer starts off with, in this non-title revenge match, which, like I said, was the absolute sign that, all right, well, we know where this is going to go. Because they're not going to go out of their way to bring that up unless they, if they lose, we can't have them walking out here and forgetting their vanity belts. Got to keep them. So we've got top tier coming out doing their normal shtick. They come out first. And we got the video clips of Coach pointing at her head and the blade and the visor and all that other stuff that she's wearing, and glitter checking the pulse and Crush punching the air and shadow boxing, et cetera, doing the top tier motion. I guess this is just the way that they like to do the intros now. So we got to intercut the B-roll of them in the studio doing whatever thing that they happen to be doing. And they get in the ring and they, are prepared and waiting for their opponents. And who should come on out? Xena Phoenix and Kara Kai. And they have just them and no Ashley Blaze. And of course that's brought up like, where's Ashley Blaze? Now, somehow or another, top tier, the three of them could not handle these two. Anytime before now, they've been just all over everybody. But now the two of them just could not, the three of them could not deal with the two. Now, Kai at least can make the argument for that she's fired up and she's just looking for revenge. You can make the argument for her. Phoenix really didn't have anything to do with this other than the fact that she's just a goody two-shoes that I want to see justice done, and I don't want top tier to break anybody else's leg, even though I constantly go after people's arm every time that I have a match. So they run down. They get top tier. The two of them, well, who was that? Kai, who tackled Crush and Campanelli, while Phoenix was on glitter. Then that kind of sent him out to the floor. Then Kai gets to do a jump off the apron, take out two of them. Then it's her and Campanelli, and Kai reverses it and sends Campanelli back into the ring, and then we trade off to Phoenix. And then that's when we start up officially the match. Then we have a nonsensical, unnecessary tug of war spot. I don't know what that was about. Xena Phoenix gets Coach Campanelli up on her shoulders, and Campanelli gives her a couple of elbows, and I guess those elbows directed her backwards towards her corner. Kai runs in, I guess, to save Xena Phoenix, but she does this by grabbing Coach Campanelli's wrist and trying to pull her out of the corner. I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish. But you got the two over there holding on to her feet, and you got Kai holding her wrist. I'm pretty sure somebody back there thought, yeah, that would be a fun spot to do. But, I mean, it didn't really accomplish anything, and it was pointless. Because as soon as she got yanked in, she being Karakai, she took a punch in the mouth, and then she was separated and sent back out to the other side. So now we got Xena Phoenix in there, and she's getting the heat on her. It was amazing to me that, this well-oiled, greatest tag team in all of wrestling suddenly lost all of their superpowers and couldn't handle the two people. But we'll get towards that. Glitter and Crush perform a tandem move within the, a couple of seconds after they get Kai out of the way, which is kind of like I was going to say like a double power bomb, but it wasn't really a power bomb. It's kind of like hoisted her up in there and dropped her. So now you got the heels who get a babyface spot where they have put Phoenix down and Glitter goes for the cover. But the referee's distracted, so he doesn't see that she has him covered. So even when we get the heels that are in a bad spot here, we have to give them a little bit of an out because, we could have won. They'll have that to rely on. We could have did it, except the referee was distracted like an idiot, and we didn't get the chance to get the cover. They'll have part of that. Glitter does her deal. She's a little running spot in the corner. She charges in and gets a good head of steam and gets the knees across Phoenix's head, even though they didn't really, and I'm sorry to criticize her work, but on camera, it did not come off good. It didn't look like it had impact. And because of the angle that the camera was on, it definitely didn't look like it had it. So we get to where Phoenix is trying to fire up and get to a tag and get away from Glitter. She's able to shake herself loose. Glitter tries to go for a clothesline. Phoenix ducks underneath that, and she stops herself as she's about to charge into. I couldn't even see who it was. I think it was Campanelli, but I don't know that. But she stops herself. She takes a punch at. We'll say that it's Campanelli because I believe Crush was on the opposite corner or opposite side, and that leaves her open so that Glitter can just give her a big boot in the mouth. Now at this point in the match, we've got the heels in control, and they're doing what they do, showing themselves off to be this world class team. And in fairness to them, it's not like they were looking bad; they were looking good out there. And all of it kind of landed on Xena Phoenix as the babyface. They had to absorb the punishment for the match. The thing that got me with this, again, is David McLean, because he has to feign not knowing where Ashley Blaze is throughout the opening portions of this match. Like, where's Ashley Blaze? Where is she? I was like, why wouldn't David McLean know where his wrestlers are? Now, I get the fact that they're never going to acknowledge that. They're not going to bring it up. They're not going to shine a spotlight on the idea that, well, he is the executive producer, he's the matchmaker. But he does this on not a week-to-week basis, but enough to where we know that he's the guy in charge. And so, given that, there is no reason for him not to know this. There's no reason for him not to know that Blaze is hurt and not going to be able to participate. She didn't just get crutches when she got there. She had crutches coming into the building. And if she had crutches, what are you putting on your wrestling gear for? If you're not going to wrestle in the match. If you're incapable of wrestling in the match, what are you getting dressed for? I know. I'm bringing up a lot of stuff that they're never going to address and probably never should. But anyhow. So they go on about this during the course of the match. I'm talking about the commentators now. And Again, give Nigel some credit to actually say, well, if you don't know where they are, David, then who would? I mean, that's not verbatim. It's something along those lines. It's pointing out the fact that, hey, he is the guy in charge, and if anybody should know where they are, he should know where they are. So thank you, Nigel Zane, for at least trying to apply some level of logic to it. Look, I know that a lot of y'all, the talents there, are handcuffed with the stupidity that the creative and or the writing and or the booking will provide. And it's hard to climb the mountain of incoherent, inconsistent, bad creative. But I appreciate the times that they at least make the effort to try. And here at least made the effort to try to point that out. I also don't understand that McClane uses revenge in like I'm glad that you got the chance to revenge your friend. I was like, it just don't roll off the tongue. Sorry. I mean, I guess theoretically you can use that, but the term should be avenge. I'm glad you got a chance to avenge your friend, but that's neither here nor there. I just bring it up because he's said that on multiple occasions. You were out here and you got the revenge revenge on your for friend or whatever. Got revenge for your friend. If he said it like that, it would be applied correctly. If you got revenge for. But just to say you revenge your friend, and it just, am I becoming grammar police? Because Lord knows I shouldn't be. I know I've said some wrong stuff, but I'm just saying. All right, so back to the match. Blaze comes out during the match on crutches because, they talked up, where is she? So you know that she's going to appear at some point. She comes out on crutches, hobbling to ringside. And at this point, we know Candy Crush is in the ring. She's the legal competitor. Blaze is walking out like she, or like I said, hobbling out like she a woman on a mission of some description. Phoenix is able to get herself out of there, finally. She had the heat on her for a long time. And you know that this is one of those spots that they just like, all right, we're going to do this and we're going to bump all over the fucking place for you. And that's what they did with Kai. Kai came in and just like all three of them just like, let me run into this foot. Now it's time my turn to get kicked in the guts and, whatever. So, Blaze, here's where it kind of goes off the rails for me. I don't even remember if Crush made the tag, honestly, at this point. But we'll just go with the idea that she wasn't a legal person. This, of course, after Blaze is just kicking the shit out of everybody else on the opposite side. But just as she's going for the cover of Campanelli, Crush stops it and she rolls out towards the ramp side that Ashley Blaze just came down. And this trained boxer is begging off from a woman on crutches. Now, I'm sure somebody like, well, she wouldn't want to beat up somebody on crutches. Like, okay, why wouldn't she? She was perfectly fine in trying to cripple somebody and put them on crutches in the first place. So why is it now that she is incapable of doing this? And she's like, wait a minute, don't hurt me. As she's begging off on the floor. And Blaze gives her one shot in the mouth and she just drops and she's like, wait, stay back. Now, I'm of two minds about this. Blaze wanted to get revenge and beat the crap out of Crush with her crutches. In this text seems perfectly justifiable. Especially if they were the ones who hurt her and got her back on crutches or hurt her knee or whatever. If that were the case, then yeah, I can understand it. But it also begs not the question, but it presents the problem of the referee had to ignore it. The referee has to sit there and ignore that. I mean, he literally is positioning himself the way his back is towards Ashley Blaze as she is using an illegal object, beating up one of the competitors on the outside. Even if you took the idea that she was legally in the match, she's using crutches. Yes, it's revenge. Yes, it's her giving them a taste of their own medicine. All of those things are true. That does not negate the rules of the match. So, Blaze is out there just hammering Candy Crush with the crutches. Gloria Glitter sees this and she comes running around the corner to stop her, but I shouldn't say run around the corner. She's pulled out of the ring and then she sees it. She comes around the corner of the post. So I don't want to make it sound like she had to come running all the way from the commentating booth or something. So she tries to come over there and help her partner out. But she also has to stand there and wait for the hitter on the outside. So she's got to wait her turn to take her jab in the guts. And Blaze is just, I guess, taking on them both. Kai's on the outside also, but she didn't seem like she was doing all that much. Inside, we got Phoenix and we got Campanelli, and Campanelli's trying to go for her dreaded sharpshooter because this move is my move now, and this is just going to cripple you if I apply this thing. She's in there trying to get it applied on Phoenix. Phoenix is fighting it. Phoenix pulls her down, and she gets into a roll-up small package. 1, 2, 3. They get the match, and yay! We've gotten revenge on Top Tier because we won. Well, that'll show them. That'll teach them a lesson for trying to put people in the hospital and breaking legs while we won this match. It's why I said that, sometimes it's got to mean more than that, but that's not a blanket statement across every match. It needed to have something that would provide some level of stake to where you could justify Top Tier being pissed off. Why? I mean, yeah, okay, you're mad that you lost. Their vanity belts are still in place, so what difference does it make? They didn't lose anything overall. They still accomplished their goal. They put Terror Strike out. They hurt Ashley Blaze. Yeah, they lost the match, but they still got the belts. I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So they're overselling the idea that they lost a match and they got revenge. Hey, happy for the baby faces here. And I have to remind myself that at times in the WoW universe, all revenge is winning the match. That's all revenge is for them. If they win the match, you've gotten revenge. They don't really push it beyond that. If this were rebooked, I wouldn't have even cared if the babyfaces lost if they got legitimate revenge on them. Like beat them up, lead them land type thing. Like let's just say Xena Phoenix was the one that was going to be used as the catalyst for the eye for an eye concept. And we get the same situation. She tries to go for a sharpshooter. Phoenix pulls her down, turns it into an armbar instead. Campanelli taps out, but Phoenix won't let go. And the baby faces are holding off the other two to make sure that they can get revenge on them. And now the referees come out. Now they ask, hey, please let her go. Don't do this. And they're like, no, she deserves this. Now, if there were some heinous act that Top Tier had done for weeks to people, that could probably be a justified thing that you would get in the ring. Even with what I just pitched, the problem that I have with my own pitch, I have a problem with it. The problem that I have with my own pitch is how WoW has already presented this angle. They presented it weekly. They presented not weekly as in one week after the other. They presented it weekly, not strong. And they presented it that way where the injury angle was essentially worthless. And yeah, okay, Top Tier went after it again, but it didn't happen enough to establish them as some sort of threat, as some sort of problem children to the Wild's roster. It's not as if they went across everybody on the roster. Just like if you're getting our weight and you're going down and we're breaking legs and taking names or whatever. It's not like that took place. They existed in their own little bubble, which basically just kept them in the lane of Top Tier and Dojo Defenders and whoever they happen to be partnered with that week. And Top Tier's record. I went to take a look at how they've been presented on the show. And we all know that they've been presented pretty strong. And I decided that let me take a look at their win-loss record and the circumstances by which they have won or lost. So I went back to September as the first match that I wanted to use. And here's their record from that point to present. Top Tier versus Chantilly, Chella, Holidead, and Kalaki. That was in September 14th. They won. Top Tier versus Keita Rush and the Mighty Mites. October 5th. They won. Top Tier versus the Fierce Sisters and Tiki Chamorro. October 19th. They won. And just keep in mind that these are primarily championship matches. So you can imagine why they're winning. Then they come across a match where it's not a championship match. Why? Because it's just a regular tag match. Top Tier versus the Dojo Defenders for the first time, and they lose against the Dojo Defenders in a tag team match. So it's just 2, not the 3. But then we go on our streak. Top Tier versus the Dojo Defenders and Valentina Diamante. November 30th. Top Tier wins. Hey, remember her, Valentina Diamante? What a signing that was. The next match, the Dojo Defenders versus Xena Phoenix. Top Tier wins. That's January 18th. Also for a championship. The Dojo Defenders and Ashley Blaze. That's February 15th. Again, Top Tier won. So it's Dojo Defenders 4 times in a row against Top Tier. And other than the tag match, they just had a rotating cast of who we're going to tag with. Valentina Diamante, Xena Phoenix, Ashley Blaze. So now we're a hodgepodge of the last 2 matches that they had. And the last match they had preceding this one was Top Tier versus Spring Break 24/7, which was a foregone conclusion. That was March 1st. And they won that. And lo and behold, once they get out of defending the championships and it becomes a non-title match, they went down in flames. It's funny how that'll happen. Then the question became, does winning this match make up for Tara Strike being put out of WoW? Remember, that's the whole catalyst behind this. Y'all went too far, you put her out. Does winning this match make up for that? Now, to be fair to the participants involved, particularly the baby faces, Blaze and Kai delivered a lot of fire. Ashley Blaze coming out there, wearing her out with the crutch. Kai coming in there and just firing off on everybody. They looked like they were out for revenge. I just would have preferred that some revenge was illustrated within the context of the match, opposed to just, it's a little aggressive, but when we really say that this is different than most other main event matches that they have there, if we're being completely honest, does it really venture that far off from what another main event match in WoW would be? Didn't seem like it to me. But, what do I know? And we leave this with Top Tier losing their minds and running around, back and forth at the ring like, oh, shut up, we didn't lose, that type of thing. And I couldn't get past, one, the foreshadowing of them losing by making sure that we knew that this was a non-title match. And it had the reverse effect of the Classmaster thing. Like I said, with them, it didn't hit me until somewhere as the match was progressing. I was like, they might not do this. It was a brief thought. I was like, they might not do this. The WoW will tend to do some things like that, and they might not pull the trigger here. With Top Tier and the main event and them going out of their way to tell you that this is a non-title, I'm like, yeah, okay, they ain't, Top Tier ain't winning. But anyhow, that was the show. And it's a lot of the same complaints that have already existed with WoW that they're never going to listen to and never going to change. I told you I've given up on them. I still review it and I watch it because I'm there, but I've given up on them. McLean, during the Classmaster Genesis match, is having a conversation about the Classmaster Samantha Smart cheating to Santana Garrett. And one is like, for her, I was like, why are you having this conversation with him and perfectly fine with it? Well, that's right. They did cheat, David. But, I was like, it's like they just, I used the term defanged when I talked about Lopez like a week or so ago. Like Santana Garrett in that company is almost completely defanged. She's just like Xena Phoenix. Well, I gave it the old college try and I'm going to, do it again, and gosh darn it, it's like as white bread as you could be. But him sitting there talking about these people to him, like this would be okay with almost anybody else under the sun. Him sitting there, the guy who allegedly fined Top Tier and Abilene Maverick, which neither one of them cared about. The guy who wrote out contracts for the Beast and, dismissed Sofia Lopez's whole contract claim some years or seasons back. Suspended or banned the alliance from ringside right then and right there. Decides who gets the championship matches and who doesn't, except for earlier. Him, who is capable of doing these things. Him who has shown people that he's capable of doing these things. But we're going to sit here and hold this conversation about how these two are cheating. He's apparently perfectly fine with it. And so is Santana Garrett. It's not like she said, hey, you need to be doing something about that. Him being there violates logic. And he continues to violate logic. And why Garrett was engaged in that conversation and not asking for some sort of justice, I'll never know. Except for that, it's just baby faces and WoW. And that's how they function. So as this is being done, we know that they are prepped for the next episode, and that is going to be the 4-way. They have already released the press on that. And here it is. I did go through this earlier, just full disclosure. I'm not reading it for the first time like I so often do when I'm doing these. But I read through this, and I think I already developed a problem with it before the show even aired. But I'll just do this so we can get through it and finish this up. Next week's episode is going to be, well, four's definitely a crowd. That is the witty title. And the release reads as this. This week, WOW Women of Wrestling shakes things up like never before. The WOW World Tag Team Championship is on the line in a fatal four-way main event match. It's an equal playing field as Big Rig Betty and Jesse Jones defend their reigning championship against Penelope Pink and Holly Swag, Miami's Sweet Heat, Lori and Lindsay Coulson, and Tormenta and Princess Ozzy. With so much talent in one match, anyone could emerge victorious. Santana Garrett is out to rebuild her momentum against Scout Parker. Meanwhile, Fury collides with WOW's newest speedster, Catalina Speed. And in tag action, Animal Instinct's Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx take on Sugar and Keita Rush, who will rise to be the top dog. Now, having read that, let's start with the obvious. How is a four-way match an equal playing field? Especially when you talk about defending the championship. How is that an equal playing field? Now, this does not have any bearing to the show. I just want to make that clear. It's not going to affect the show, what they wrote. But how does that make it an equal playing field? If anything, it's an unfair playing field because Big Rig Betty and Jesse Jones have a 1 in 4 chance of losing, or 25% chance of losing, or retaining. Sorry, they got a 25% chance of retaining. That's not an equal playing field. That's them fighting the odds. I'm already convinced I know where that's going, but I'm not gonna. I think if there's a time for them to drop it, this is probably it. Them being Big Rigs and Bourbon. I already told you what I felt about Santana Garrett and Scout Parker. Probably be entertaining, but I do not expect Scout Parker to win. I expect her to put up a good effort and look good while she's in there, but I do not expect her to win. Fury going against Catalina Speed. What is this, her second match? So I'm not sure she's due to win yet because, they have to lose like 3 times before they come close to scoring any sort of win. Which would only make me think if Sophia Lopez is going out there again with Catalina Speed to another loss, what does that say for her as a manager? What does that say for her as a manager? When everybody that she's managed has just been beaten and beaten and beaten and beaten. And then in some cases, when they get free of her, they actually start to win. Las Banditas, when they got free of her, they got a couple of wins. Tormenta, when she got free of her, she got a couple of wins. But while they was with her, Sophia Lopez couldn't do nothing for them or with them. And now she's a babyface manager with Catalina Speed. Or at least I assume that she's going to keep going. You can never tell with WOW. But if she is, back to that defanged statement, what can she do? If she's a babyface manager, at least, what can she do? She can't distract. She can't give it the belt. I mean, not the belt, but the briefcase or nothing like that. She can't do those things. She can't sit there and cut a promo for Speed either. She's just there to stand at ringside and be attractive, I guess. And the other, I was going to say the main event, but it's not the main event. It's just what's listed last on this press release. But Animal Instinct, whose pocket are they in? I mean, they've just been week after week after week after week. I get it. Somebody backstage loves this team, and they must be their pet project or something, because they're getting a lot of airtime. Are they that good that they just like, well, we got to put Animal Instinct back on there because people love Animal Instinct? Is it that? It's like I can't escape these two. But they're going into a match against not the Mighty Mites, but Sugar of the Mighty Mites and Keita Rush. Why is this happening? Why is it happening that Keita Rush has to fill in for Spice? Is this going to take place during the show where they're actually going to show Spice getting hurt or locked in a closet? I don't know, but some reason to necessitate why she has to stand in for. This has been happening a lot with them. They just have started developing these little hodgepodge teams. And this just feels like another one. And it wouldn't shock me if it was Sugar and Keita Rush for the next couple of weeks. But how many more of those do you need? I mean, are there no babyface tag teams that could have been slotted into that to try to do something? About a week ago, it was proclaimed like WoW is famous for their tag team division, which I'm calling BS on that. It's like WoW is not famous for no tag team division. WoW is not famous for anything other than being WoW. They're not noted for high-end wrestling matches or angles or personalities, which is all the things that most wrestling companies would want to be known for. But are there no other teams? Have all of them been dismantled? The Dojo Defenders, one of them hurt. Miami Sweet Heat is healed, at least for the time being. The Mighty Mites, well, we just talking about them right now. Spring Break 24/7 is worthless. The Mother Truckers no longer exist. Top Tier, well, they're heel team, so that ain't going. All American Girls, they got somebody else out on leave. Brat Pack, heel team. Fierce Sisters, somebody else gone. Animal Instinct, well, that's the one we're looking to try to find opponents for. Fab Four is all tied up in something. Princess Ozzy and Tormenta tied up in the nonsense with the Fab Four. Yeah, not only am I calling BS on them having this outstanding tag team division, I would say that tag team division been decimated. Because who do you have now? Miranda Mirage and it's Fury, who apparently they're not tagging up this particular week. So that tag team must be going great. Keita Rush is just kind of slotted in where she needs to be every once in a while. I mean, her former partner, wherever she happens to be, Steffi Slays, off earning her medical degree to be a nurse or something so she can make some real money. But, I mean, a lot of these teams that I see that just kind of slap together. I mean, maybe Kalaki and Tiki. Maybe they could have put them in there against Animal Instinct. Maybe that would have worked. But it doesn't seem like they have a lot of options in terms of teams right now. All of them just seem to be people that just, I got nothing else going on, so put me in this team. But anyhow, that is where we are with WoW and their episode. It's worth repeating, as is always worth repeating. It's not always the match. Sometimes it's the journey of that match that gets me. And the journey of most of that, I shouldn't even say of the match. Sometimes it's the journey to the match that bothers me with WoW. And this is another one of the episodes that overall it just kind of bothered me. Not that it was anything completely egregious, not that it was anything just over the top, bad and wrong. A lot of it you needed to be paying attention to. But you also watch TV to pay attention to it. And it just never got out of the gate with this. Not in my opinion. It's just another case of angles that's on WoW's TV that are surface level coherent at best. Once you look beyond the surface, once you peel back that first layer, it loses all consistency. And that's it, folks. That is the full review. I think I have really done a job here. And so we're going to have to close this up and get ready for the next one, because as I recorded, I'm right on the precipice of getting ready to have to watch the next one. I think like a day or so. So let's wrap it on up and say that, hey, if you haven't found it yet and you need to find all of our stuff, go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com. That is where everything goes. That's the podcast. Go there. There's a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week stream on that website with footage going back towards 2013. A couple other things non-wrestling related thrown into the streams as well. But, by and large, wrestling. And some of the top women that's out there. You see them before they were stars with me. I brought them to you first. Well, at least one of them. Of course, if you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. If you are listening to us on greater podcast platforms, a nice rating would be nice. A nice rating would be nice. I'm being redundant. But also, like I said, going back to the WPN, everything's there. If you, for whatever reason, cannot find it in either one of those places that I just named, or you happen to come across this and not be on YouTube and not be in a podcast platform, then you can go to WPNWrestling.com and it'll send you to everything else. Easy peasy. And so with that, as we prepare to see another edition of WoW and be magnificently underwhelmed, I will say that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.